I'm really thrilled to present my guest today to everyone here. My name is Medina, and this is Arise Humanity on YouTube and also Soul Family on Rumble. And I have a beautiful guest today from the UK, Alison Dobell. And we're going to talk about a few different things today. Alison is very cleverly organising an Earth Summit, which will be coming up beginning of June. It will be shown. And I was very excited to be invited to be part of the Earth Summit as well. So it's really exciting. I'm looking forward very much to coming into our beautiful social media very shortly. I'd like to also share that Alison does some wonderful work, humanitarian work with horse rescue, and hence the reason for my beautiful backdrop here, horses, because you have such a passion for helping and rescuing horses, which is really, really beautiful. I love that. And you also do some wonderful work with clients, and you do a range of different therapies as well. So I'll just give a little bit of an intro to your work, Alison. Alison supports highly sensitive people to release trauma, pain, and overwhelm, allowing a return to a natural state of balance and inner peace so that they can thrive in a not so sensitive world that doesn't always understand them. Through accessing the quantum field, Alison supports others in calming the nervous system, enabling transformation in a more deliberate and conscious way in order to attract more positive experiences. Alison designs personalized holistic healing programs specific to individual needs and goals. And Alison's website is sensitive-spirit.com. And of course, I always leave the links below if people want to contact Alison in the description box. But a huge welcome to you, Alison. So I'd love to start with you sharing a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you, Medina. Thanks for having me on your channel. It's nice to connect with you again, because it was a few weeks ago that we actually did the interview, so it's nice to see you again.
It was so much fun.
So I was actually, I know it was. I kept forgetting we were actually recording it. It was just like we were having a chat. It was so many golden nuggets in there. It was fabulous. So my background's actually education. I was a teacher for over 2 decades, and initially I really enjoyed it, but the system became more and more contracted, and I felt stifled, and it was becoming less and less child-centered, and they were basically becoming exam factories. The esteem of the teachers and the children was very low, and it was literally breaking my spirit. It felt like I felt very trapped, though, because it was all I'd ever done, and it's all I'd ever known. It was all I'd ever trained to do. And I had a big mortgage. I had always had lots of animals to be responsible for. And I just didn't see a way out. And it affected my mental health and my physical health. My thyroid crashed. We talked about, we've both had throat problems, not being able to speak our truth in your interview. And it was just, I felt like a downward spiral, but so stuck. I didn't know how to get out, which I know so many people are in that space now, which is really what prompted me to do the summit, because I'm just a few steps ahead. Mm-hmm. But if I could look at my life now, and if I could have gone back to my younger self 10 years ago and said, look, in 10 years you'll be here, I would never have believed that. It's absolute. I still have to pinch myself. And it was energy therapy for me. I had actually, at the time of teaching, I was training alongside in the evenings and weekends and holidays to become a psychotherapist. Actually, I was always interested in the mind-body connection, and I knew I wanted to work for myself at some point, but it didn't do it for me. I just knew that wasn't the way for me. But I did train in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which I did find useful. But it's still, there was something missing, and that's when I trained in Reiki, and then I did and trained in EFT 10 years ago, which I had the biggest shift, absolute huge shift of energy. And then a few months later, I trained in matrix reimprinting, which is a kind of inner child healing with emotional freedom technique. And I learned parts therapy and lots of different healing somatic modalities. And it just shifted me completely. And within 6 months, I'd left my job of 25 years that I was so stuck in. I felt I was stuck in. I was energetically stuck. And I met the love of my life, and we're now married. Within 6 months of doing this work, it's so powerful. So I want to pass on what I learned to others and just help people who are in that horrible, stuck victim consciousness, because nothing can grow, you can't create. Your nervous system actually is probably in chronic freeze, which is if you're in either fight or flight, that can be very quick and instantaneous. But if nothing gets resolved from that, you go into a deep chronic freeze and your kind of nervous system just kind of clams up. And I think so many people are there now. So yeah, that's a quick background of where I've come from.
It's so interesting how when you're talking about something, it's just highly relevant to what you've just experienced. I had a beautiful lady drop round today. She's a hairdresser, and she's had to get a job in a hairdressing salon. And she was reading out messages from the boss to her today saying to the team, "Come on, team, we're doing a terrible job. We have to raise the bar. We have to work harder. We have to do better. Come on, we can do much better than this." And it just went on and on and on. And everything I listened to, I'm going, oh, no, it was so 3D Matrix. And it was all about the employer and absolutely no consideration whatsoever for the employees. You know, they're on very basic minimum wage. They didn't get any perks in the job. It was just horrific. And, you know, as you say, so many people in this situation now. And as I was listening to it, my energy is just, I could feel it just dropping because it was just so awful. She's a beautiful girl, very aware. And just to be able to support and help people to be able to step out of that 3D matrix system is so important. And the more people that step out of it, the more we can dismantle that horrible framework that nobody wants to continue at this point. So this is such important work, and I'm so glad you're doing the Earth Summit with this as a key goal. What can you say about that?
Yes, thank you. Yes, when you were just saying what the employer was asking, I just thought that is so the old paradigm, isn't it? It really is. And it's just not working anymore.
No.
But we're in that strange transitional time where the old ways are crumbling, and I do believe that is a foregone conclusion. Nothing can stop it. And we are now creating our new Earth. But it's not easy. Ascension sounds so lovely and fluffy, doesn't it? And actually it's not. It's really hard. It is, especially if you are still having to rely on those old 3D systems, which so many people are. It's very difficult to step in to these new Earth energies, which has come up. A big theme of the summit is that these energies actually are here now. Our role is to step into them and utilize them.
Every time you step into that, you're helping be a role model and support another person to do that, and even energetically the impact that has on the whole.
Absolutely, because it does go out into the collective field, and quite a few themes came up within the summit. One obviously was that these energies are here now. It's not a case of, oh, come on, when are we gonna get there? You know, it's kind of like not a destination. It's something we're creating now. So the more of us that can do it by accessing these energies, it is exciting if we can pull ourselves or keep ourselves out of fear vibration. That is how we are creating new Earth together. So these energies are here, and the old guard, if you like, are they know they're in their death throes. They are throwing everything at us to keep us in those lower vibrations. So the actual summit was based on a quote that starts off with, "What is the greatest challenge to being alive?" And the answer is to witness the injustices in the world, but not allow it to consume your light, which I believe is where we are now. And it's so easy because so many people like us who are going to be registering for the summit, we're highly sensitive, intuitive, empaths, and we do take on the collective. I know I did, especially in 21 and 22. I went into a very dark space, actually. And I think a lot of it was collectively. I was taking in on the trauma. So the summit is not for, if people are in, it's definitely a spiritual perspective, but with a lot of practical grounded advice as well. It's very solution focused, but we don't shy away from the realities of what's going on either. So it's not for spiritual people who are just focused on the light, because we do go into how we got here and why, because I believe if we don't know how we have ended up in this situation, we're not able to provide the antidote to it.
Yes.
And I don't look at it as fighting the old system, because that's using the same energy, and that energy wants that fight. If you want that, they want that battle.
Yes.
Because it feeds that energy.
Definitely.
So it is kind of, I don't like the word fighting. I do think we have to kind of put on our spiritual warrior energy, but in a much more empowered, aligned, purposeful way, about raising our energy above that old world. We can do this without getting embroiled in it. We can do it from a distance, knowing it's unraveling itself anyway. We don't need to join them in that. We can actually step aside, know what's happening, send love to the suffering, because I'm not denying for 1 minute the horrendous suffering that's going on around the world because of these old energies in their death throes. But it really is our role now, and the energies are ripe for them. This has come up so much in the summit to, as I was saying earlier, access these energies, because it seems so chaotic and desperate in the external, but it's like that because there is so much light coming on to the planet. So these old energies, the old paradigm, it worked historically by in being in the dark and hiding, and it can't do that anymore because there's too much light shining onto the planet. And we talk about that a lot within the summit. And I think having that awareness of just why it's happening, it creates a calmness, because you can look at it through different lenses, if you like. I think so many people are looking at what's going on through the old 3D lens. And if you just use those lenses, it is incredibly frightening. But if you look at it with a much broader perspective, from a spiritual perspective, actually it does calm you down, and you still send love, as I said, to the suffering that is going on. But we will change that by raising our vibration, not by going into that suffering, but actually raising our vibrations. That will spread throughout the collective field. And that, in my opinion, is how we create our new earth together.
Beautiful. It's very much an individual thing too, really, that we do it ourselves as a co-creator, and then it impacts the world. I mean, we want to be of service to others and help the collective, but ultimately we've got to do that first for ourselves, and then we're able to help others. So it's sort of like you can't throw someone a lifeboat if you haven't got the lifeboat yourself first, type thing. Otherwise, you're going to go down anyway. So It's very much, I think, an individual thing for people to work on and master, and then they can move forward with others. And the other point I wanted to make was when you talked about the light that's coming through, just in the last 24 hours, there was the highest level of X-class solar flares on the planet that's ever happened. So the level of solar flares and the light activity, the encodings that we're receiving at this time are unprecedented. And that is the light that you're talking about, that the dark just cannot hide anymore, where all this light is being sort of integrated and processed in our DNA and in our at a cellular level, so that we can really evolve and move forward on our spiritual journeys. Such an exciting thing to think about.
It is. And when you look at it from that perspective, it changes your whole energy. You know, you can have that, like, okay, it's not all doom and gloom and chaos. We're not all, you know, going to end up controlled and in some horrendous dystopian nightmare, you know. And I think that awareness is the key, which this summit does provide, that awareness. And every time I listen to one of the interviews, I feel calmer. I can feel that it's raised my vibration, even though we do talk about the realities of, I call them the powers that were, who are completely panicking now.
Yes.
So it helps you when you look at what's going on in the external to actually hold and anchor those calmer, grounded energies, so we can hold that space for others to create the new energies. I think in the past where we've gone wrong is we've used the same energies to fight. There's always been rebellions and revolutions, obviously, all through history, but it's been done with the same energy of, you know, that fighting.
Yes.
And I think we've always looked, well, not everybody, there's always been some incredible spiritual teachers who've known actually the other way to do it. But I think in general, humanity has kind of tried to solve the external to make ourselves feel better. And it's kind of flipping that. And as you said, it's an inside job, working with yourself in your own individual reality. It's getting across to people how powerful that is. People think, oh, it's not going to do anything. It's so powerful. That's one of the things that's come across in the summit, is we've forgotten, and it's by design, we haven't been told how incredibly powerful creator beings we are, because we're the ones that do the creating. We are the creator beings. The powers that were, who basically split off from the source energy, meant that they can't create. So what they have done is, very cleverly, they're very clever in the left brain. They haven't got the right brain creativity, but left brain wise, they've been able to suss out how the human psyche works. So what they've done is they've manipulated us to create the reality they want.
Yes, they're not dummies, are they?
They're not in that sense, no.
Not in that sense. Yeah. No, I know we have been facing you know, an advanced intellect, you know, that has known how to manipulate and engineer the results that they want, but we're getting astute to it now, and we are, as you say, flipping the script on them. And when they do something that is for their sort of dastardly design, we utilize that, or the white hats or the good guys have utilized that to further the positive journey for humanity. You know, they've been able to sort of use the events that have been created by the dark to further our ascension process. And it's really interesting the way it's all played out. I mean, I hear that there is there was one theory that there is a higher benevolent AI called Adam that has been reading the probabilities of the past and the future, and then analyzing them all and finding the best way of going forward with the least collateral damage and for the best outcome for humanity in general. So it's very interesting everything that's going on. So tell us about the Earth Summit, a little bit more information. When does it start? Who are some of the speakers in the Earth Summit? And yeah, just a bit more information.
Yes, thank you. So it actually launches on the 1st of June 2024, and for 22 days. So it's from the 1st of June to the 22nd of June, and there are 22 main speakers within the summit. There are also some bonus interviews, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now I'm actually going to do, I love summits. I just think the format of them is really good. I think it's win-win for everybody. It's free to register and free to watch for the 22 days. But I registered for another one the other day, and they've got like 4 or 5 speakers each day, which not many people have got the time to watch that many people. So I'm actually going to do 1 speaker per day. So each speaker gets 24 hours for their individual interview to be aired before we then go on to the next speaker. And yes, it's for 22 days, but you can start registering from the 20th of May. And we will send people reminders just before the 1st as well to remind people. And there'll be a link that you can click on, and it will take you straight to the interviews. Now, obviously, I've said it's for free to watch. There is an option to purchase an upgrade package, which I am keeping very affordable at £29, which I think is round about 55 Australian dollars. I think about 35 US dollars. And I'm not going to a lot of summits, you know, oh, make sure you buy it now before it goes. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it at that. I think it's very affordable price, because I want as many people as possible to have lifetime access to all the interviews and the transcripts, plus lots of bonus interviews that aren't in the main summit. And also, as part of that upgrade package, I will be doing a live workshop at some point throughout June, where I share my journey and how I shifted my energy and how I found my limiting beliefs. So I hope that will be very helpful for people, especially who feel really stuck, as we were talking about earlier, and hopeless, that horrible, hopeless, helpless, what can I do energy. I really think this workshop will give people lots of ideas and practical solutions about how to shift from that. So all of that will be in the upgrade package, lifetime access to all the interviews. And every single penny goes towards my horse rescue in France.
My background. Oh, that's
I just love horses. I really do.
So do
and we've finally got the website up and running for the horse sanctuary now. It's called Happy Tales, happy hyphen tales, and tales play on words as in TALES. Yes. Because the idea being, when they get to us, they have a happy story, a happy tale. They may not have had a happy start in life, but when they get to us, whether they stay with us long term or we rehome them, they have a happy tale for the rest of their days.
Oh, I love that. How many horses do you think you might have rescued at this time?
So far, we have rescued 10.
Beautiful.
Yeah, 2 of them. My original idea that I always wanted to do was rescue horses, so older horses, and give them a happy retirement. So our first 2 rescues were, she was 29, Amandine, when we first got her, and no, she was 31, and her best friend Dolly was 29. They've now passed, they've transitioned. Dolly left us to go. She earned her angel wings in December at the age of 33, which gives me so much joy, because I'm actually based in France now. I moved to France to actually start the horse rescue.
There was a reason
because,
for that, wasn't it? It was easier or something than in the UK. It was less restrictive, is that correct?
well, it basically more affordable.
Yes, yes,
Prices in the UK are just horrendous.
yeah,
There's no way we could have afforded the land
yeah.
to do this. And also, it is a more desperate situation in France, although it's just across the English Channel. The attitude towards animals is very, very different in France, which is very difficult as an animal empath, to actually see all these horses would have ended up going on a horrendous three-day journey to Italy to be slaughtered and used and then be eaten, whereas they don't do that in the UK at all. But in Europe they do, so I really realised the need, if you like, for these horses was greater in Europe, and we had the funds. I sold my house in the UK to enable us to have the funds to buy the land.
Oh,
But my mission is to rescue as many horses as possible. So yes, it's a twofold aim, this summit, obviously to help humanity raise the vibrations of the earth, which these interviews really do. There's so much wisdom. But the other side as well was to help the horses. So win-win. So that is where the money is going to go if you purchase the upgrade pass. And I'll give you the details and the link for the horse rescue website as well. And
beautiful.
people can have a look at
Yes,
that and
yes.
see the animals we've got at the moment.
Oh, that is lovely. You've got their names and everything there. So if people want to
Yes.
go and read about them or just even support Alison as well as joining the Earth Summit, if you'd like to also support the horses in any other way, you can contact her. I'll leave obviously all her details below and her website's there. So I love that you're helping our beautiful animal friends, and I've always loved horses as well. My birth name, because I've changed my name, my birth name was Philippa, which means lover of horses in Italian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is interesting. And yeah, I spent quite a few of my childhood years passionate about horses and making horse books and looking after horses and all sorts of things. So yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always obsessed with horses. There's just something about them. And
Yeah.
actually, we were going to go on to some of the speakers. One of the speakers, Dr. Sharnal Wolverton Sahan, she brings the scientific part within the summit speakers. And she talks about our electromagnetic fields, and she explains it in such an easy to understand way. But she talks about we all have these energy fields. They can be measured. They are real. It's not woo-woo. And she said, apart from dolphins, horses have one of the biggest energetic fields. They measure 250, and the average human is much less. So it makes you realize why a lot of us are so drawn to horses. They actually have one of the highest energetic fields of all living sentient beings. So that was interesting.
Fascinating. They've got that element to them that there's a wildness that can't be tamed. I know that on a level they can be domesticated, but inherently they've got this wildness and this sense of freedom, and that's what we're all striving for, is to feel completely free out of this enslavement system. And I think horses represent that as well, which is really special. So
Yes.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And who are some of the other perhaps speakers that you can share with us?
Yeah, so we're going to start off with Kerry Kay. I gave her the challenge. She manages to, if you don't know her YouTube channel, I would recommend it, because she manages to articulate in such a concise way what's going on. And I gave her the challenge of basically, can you just give us a brief history of creation, how and why we got there in about 10 minutes?
No pressure.
She did a sterling job. So she kind of lays out how it all started. I've tried to ask questions because I listen to so many spiritual teachers. I love listening to different perspectives and ideas. And this summit is all about taking what resonates for you. There definitely is a general theme, which is interesting, but people kind of put it across in different ways. But the actual message is the same. So she's kicking it off by saying how we basically became an enslaved race, who by, why it's all happened. And I try and ask questions that I've never heard before. So it answers a lot of questions. We've got Stella Fairburn talking about how to take back our divine sovereignty and an actual ritual you can do to, as I was saying earlier, providing the antidote to what's going on. A lot of these modalities, it's literally flipping the script on what we've been given and taking back our sovereignty and our God-given rights and power and creative power, using a lot of the techniques that they've used to get us to give them power. It's actually taking those back, because they've just stolen our power. We're taking it back and flipping it, as I said, not in a confrontational way, actually just a case of, you're not relevant to me anymore, I'm going to take back my power. And Stella Fairburn gives a really good ritual that you can do to do that. Sarita Sol, she's the shamanic practitioner. She brings in the shamanic perspective, and we talk about soul retrieval, about when our personality selves are in this world, because it literally is designed for us to live in trauma from the day we're born. And our sensitive spirits, it's too much for us, and a lot of our spirits, a lot of our parts fragment because they just can't handle it. Happens to a lot of children, for example, who suffer abuse. They get fragmented and they're not whole anymore, which can cause addictions, because somebody's feeling they're not whole, there's something wrong, there's a part of them missing, so they're trying to fill it with something, but doing it in the wrong way, whether they're using drugs, alcohol, you know, food, whatever it is. There's countless addictions, aren't there? And what they're trying to do is find those lost parts of themselves.
Sure. And it was sort of set up like that by the duck, so that they could feed off that life force energy, the loosh, you know, so that was how they could, you know, feed themselves energetically. So it was in a sense set up to have that foundation of trauma for their purposes.
Yeah. Oh, it was all by design. Yeah. And what happens when these soul fragments split off because of the trauma? It creates holes then, or rips in our aura, in our auric field.
Yeah.
Which then means these other more nefarious energies can then come into our energetic field and make us weaker, and, as you said, feed off our energy. So that's a fascinating shamanic discussion. Abby Wynn is a healer, and we talk about recovering from being in this realm, this inverted matrix. We specifically talk about the last few years, and I know we talked about that in your experience in Australia.
Yes.
Over the last 4 years. And actually how so many...
Not for the faint-hearted. Sorry.
No, it's not. No, this summit is not for the faint-hearted. We do know that.
No, I mean being in Australia at that time.
Oh, I see. Yes. No. Well, we said, didn't we? France was pretty bad. I was in France, but I think Australia was even more.
And specifically restrictive. Melbourne, Victoria too.
Yeah.
Victoria was,
Yes, I saw those videos. In fact, you shared it, and we managed to insert it in our talk of that woman being arrested, and absolutely crazy. So we talked about, and quite a few speakers have talked about this, how we heal from the last few years, particularly healing in general, literally by virtue of being in this inverted matrix, and possibly for centuries and centuries for many of us. In fact, Sarita talks about the soul trap as well, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But we talk about recovering from PTSD, with Abby and quite a few others, especially from the last few years, people I still think are in shock about what happened. Whether you fell for the narrative or not, it doesn't matter. We obviously, that was a huge plan to divide us all. Another one, the old divide and conquer the playbook, which they've used so well for millennia. But the people who particularly didn't choose to go down the mainstream narrative and take the medical divide, concoction. Oh my goodness, the horror stories that you hear, how they've been abused and lost their families, their businesses, their homes. It is shocking. So we talk a lot about that and how to process and move on from that. In fact, that's one of the things I'm feeling called to do after the summit, is provide a forum for people. I really feel people's voices need to be heard, and for them to tell their experiences of what they went through over the last 4 years.
I can say that my partner and I also experienced that personally too. So yeah, I'm in the boat as well. Yeah. I feel like I've healed it because I've done work on it and transmuted it, but it was very intense. Yeah.
Exactly. And we've been lucky because we had those tools and support to know how to process them. But a lot of people haven't got that.
No.
So that if there's a call for people, I'm happy to hold that space for people in a group situation, because I think that's powerful as well, to do these things in groups. And it's not coming from the energy of let's all moan about what happened to us over the last 4 years. It's about talking about it, being heard. That is so, yes, lots of that. Being listened to, this is what happened to me, and for it to be acknowledged that was horrendous, and it's still going on. People are still being gaslighted, but actually how to help someone move through it as well.
The other aspect of that is the disclosure that's happening, and the reveal of the extent of our darkness that we've actually been in, because nobody was aware of the extent of it till this time. And probably we're not even aware of it fully now, of what the true extent is, because we're only getting small aspects. But to heal the trauma of that, the disclosure and the truth being revealed, that in itself is something that we all need to be able to process and integrate and then heal and transmute.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be, well, I feel it's like waves will be happening. So if we can help people now who are aware of what's happened and they need to process what's happened to them, if we can do that even in groups, I mean, I'm helping people individually, but there's only so much capacity we can help as individuals. But that group energy is so powerful as well, particularly in this context where sharing experiences. And it's not like I said, a bemoaning, wallowing activity. It's being heard, being acknowledged, and moving through it. And then that will ripple out. And then those people can then use those techniques to help the newly awakened, if you like, and aware people, because disclosure is coming out and it's going to ripple out. That shock is going to come out. So if the ones of us who are aware of what's happened, we can work on ourselves now to then be ready to help those who are, because they're going to come out in such, it's going to be a real shock for them, because it's taken me a good while to be awake and aware to what's going on. A lot of us could do it gradually. I feel in the next few weeks and months, it's going to be quite a sharp shock for people, because things are actually, which is great, are becoming mainstream now.
Yes.
4 years later. So it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So it's about being there for each other and knowing what to do. So that's something quite a few of us have talked about, healing from trauma and what we do about it. Catherine Edwards, we talk about life hacks for surviving these times. And we talked about whether to still try and inform others or not. Lucy Davis, we talk about navigating relationships, which is obviously a biggie. Honey C. Golden talks about the death of ego, which is happening, eliminating the old program based on fear. Ella Ringrose, gosh, she's an old soul in quite a young body, talks about children of the new earth. She works with children of the new earth and their parents.
You've got a wonderful lineup there, I must say.
It's brilliant.
All those names I know.
Laurie Spanier, very important one to my heart and many others, is the role of animals during these times.
Yeah.
Jason Christoph and Alan James is more about the psychology and the mindset and how mind control works. And
I love Jason Christoph. He's great. I've chatted to him a few times.
Great.
He's wonderful.
Yeah, no, he's great. What a job he does, honestly. Yes. He goes around talking to parliaments and things about mind control.
Fantastic. And parliaments he moved to Mexico too from Canada because he felt more comfortable.
Well, Canada's similar to Australia in terms of restrictions, I think, isn't it? It's quite
yeah, totally
and strict.
I think those South American countries often look quite enticing when you think about some of these other, Western.
I know.
Western
the irony of it, isn't it? The irony of it. The Western democracies are the most tyrannical ones. I know, it's ridiculous. Very quickly, Blossom Goodchild talks from a galactic perspective. She channels the Federation of Light, and she actually brought through White Cloud, a Native American guide. That was amazing that he came through. We talk about the role of money and the true meaning of abundance with Sarah McCrum, and that's changing our relationship with money. She actually channels money. She channels the energy of money, which I've never heard anyone do before. And that will completely change your whole perspective around money, because as we've been programmed to fear it or hate it, or it's not that at all. Money at the moment, money is still within the system. I need money to help the animals, we all need money. But she does a brilliant way of explaining how to actually connect with the real energy of money, because that's all it is energy. So that's fascinating. Mel Rentmeister, we talk about cultivating a healing mindset. Adrian Lee about the Akashic records. Jackie White talks about Ho'oponopono, which I have found so healing, especially during my dark years a couple of years ago when I was picking up on the collective energy. Christian Sundberg, he comes a very spiritual perspective from his pre-birth memories. Basically, fear is a complete illusion. Amanda Dungate from the People's Health Alliance, that's more of a very practical, so exciting what that initiative is, and it is going international now. It's exactly, to me, the practical epitome of New Earth, is because most of the interviews are more spiritual and what we can do with our energy. That's a very pragmatic, practical initiative, which is literally spreading like wildfire, of helping people to create community hubs around the world where we come back to communities, because that is our strength as humans, which is why the powers that were have done everything they can to have dismantled the community spirit. So this initiative is bringing back communities together, and everybody has a role in the community. We've all got something we can offer, and it's so empowering, and it helps with mental health, and it's very practical. And they basically run the People's Health Alliance, which has now splintered off into People's Food Farming Alliance. It's now going everywhere in all different aspects of society. How we can take back our power and become sovereign and independent again, away from these governments who most of us now watching you and registering for the summit know that aren't acting in our best interests. But so many people still do believe, can you believe, that they are? And it's going to be a very big shock for those people when they realise how much they've been lied to, and actually how much harm has been inflicted on us. So having these local communities where people can actually physically go and be part of, because yes, having the online communities is fantastic, but also to be able to have that personal perspective as well, and meet people and do something yourself.
A friend was holding one of those, and there was a gathering of a lot of people, and it was so lovely because it just felt like you're on the same page, and you could feel the energetic resonance with other people, and they were so warm. Some of the people, they were just like, you know, good friends giving you a hug, and you never met them before. It's really lovely.
Yeah,
I had such a great time. Oh, so nice.
it's like humanity's coming back together again, aren't we? That's the new energies. You know, we've been divided and separated.
Yes, they've targeted families, they've targeted gender, you know, all the ways that they've tried to fragment our unification.
Exactly. So this is the complete antidote to what they've tried to do.
That sounds amazing. What an incredible Earth Summit you've organised with names that everyone, I'm sure, will recognise. So that's a wonderful effort. I know how much work is involved to organise something like this. I just recently had something on a bit of a smaller scale, which was a global forum from around the world, and it was such a big organizational feat to get it all together. So well done you. I mean, it's a huge job you've done so well. I'd love to finish with perhaps something that is your words of wisdom, or something, a gem of truth that you'd like to share with the audience before you go. Alison, it's been so lovely to chat with you. What's something perhaps that you think is really important to share at the moment as we finish up?
Well, obviously I would encourage people to register for the summit, because there is so much wisdom within every speaker. It's gold, and each one of those interviews will raise your vibration and keep you out of the fear vibration. But I would say that is really what we need to be focusing on now, is keeping out or pulling ourselves out of that fear vibration. These interviews will help you to do that. And as I alluded to earlier, it's not in a fluffy love and light way. We talk about why we got here, but they're very solution focused. I think the best way, I don't know if you've heard of Pam Gregory, the astrologer.
Oh, yes, I interviewed her. Yeah, she's lovely.
Oh, did you? Yes.
We've been in contact. Yeah, she's lovely.
She's great, and she does good analogies. I love analogies. And she did a great one about how to navigate, excuse me, these times. And she said, imagine you've been living in this old house, this crumbling, decrepit old house, and it's been there for centuries. It's not working anymore. It's leaking. It's dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the analogy is that's the old paradigm. And she says, you want to create a new, much safer, more loving, energetically aligned space for you to live in. So you meet with your architect and you draw up the plans. You have the resources all together, ready for it to be built. And she said, that's where we are now. And she said, so we have a choice, and it's all about the choice. We can either choose, we know this new earth is going to happen. We are in those energies. It's all there. We just have to access them. So we can choose to stay amongst all the rubble and the chaos and the dirt, and all the diggers and everything. We can choose to stay there, which clearly isn't very comfortable. Or we can go and maybe choose a nice hotel to stay in whilst it's all being built. We know it's happening. We can keep coming back. We keep envisioning what that new house / new earth will be like, because it's a foregone conclusion. We know it's going to happen. So it's our choice whether we can detach from the chaos and pull ourselves away from all that fear, which is being designed. And it could even get worse before it gets better, because that's how it happens. They're in their death throes. They're panicking, So when you do you know, I would advise as well nobody to watch the mainstream news, but obviously we're always seeing headlines, even on social media, about what's happening. You know, when you do see those headlines or whatever new treaty is they've got lined up for us, you get that initial like, you know, actually just remember it's okay. It's got to get worse. It's got to crumble. It's got to be pulled down, and to step away from that vibration.
Yeah, the very good analogy that you just made from Pam is similar to the birth analogy of, you know, going through the suffering and the pain of the birth process, and just think how incredibly celebrational it is when a baby is born. And that's going to be the energy that we're going into this. For the very first time, humanity will experience true freedom and true peace and true unification. And it's going to be like when you're holding that little baby in your hands for the first time, when a baby's been born. And there's nothing that compares to that. So for all the pain and the hardship and the challenge that you go through, that's well worth the goal once you get there. And, you know, when you're holding that baby, you sort of forget all the suffering and the pain that got you to that point.
Yeah.
It all just disappears like in an amnesia sort of thing. It's gone. And all you know is the beauty of that moment and the celebration. And I think that if people can focus on that as well, that could be a helpful analogy as well.
And just that it's part of the process, you know, and it's okay. Try not to get caught up in it. The more of us that can anchor in those new energies, those new earth energies, the quicker it will happen anyway. They're here now already for us to harness and utilize. So the more of us that can do it, the quicker, I believe, it will all happen. And it will definitely be a smoother process if more of us can hold that light and ground ourselves in those light energies.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, thank you so much, Alison. It's a joy to chat with you as always. And I love your initiative in creating this Earth Summit. I encourage everyone to join. All the information will be below to register. And also, I really honor you for the wonderful work that you're doing to rescue horses. That is such important work as well. And of course, all the work that you're doing with clients and in general as well. Thank you, Alison. I look forward to hearing all about how it goes, and keep me posted. And it was wonderful to chat with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Medina.
Thank you.